there comes this weird moment after a spiritual awakening, or the spiritual awakening, we can call it, I think, where if you have the samadhi experience, which I'll go into in a moment, if you have it last for long enough, the non-dual state, you can assemble all manner of things. And although I wasn't sure whether I was going to share my journey and my experience, I think that if I don't share what I'm compelled to share, whoever was meant to hear it from me may not hear it, which would be perfect in itself and wouldn't matter, but it means that I'm compelled. And so, where there is compulsion and an energetic impulse to share, I think it's important that I do so. So, without further ado, with my little bit of stimulant here, hot cocoa type drink. I've got some cacao powder, stevia, and some coconut milk with some hot water. This will be Satsang number 1. And there might be background noise because I live in a home. I run a business with my partner. We have a fortnightly get together. Sometimes people get together at our house, and there's someone here tonight we've got that happening in about an hour. So I've left my partner with our business partner, and I'm in here sharing from my experience around awakening, so-called enlightenment. I say so-called because many people would think that after samadhi and a stabilized 5D experience that you're now enlightened, but out of my mentor from Russia, who I was blessed enough to find, the algorithm found her for me, really, through a series of fortuitous and happy events when I was in a very, very high state of samadhi. I have learned that awakening is just the first step. Stabilizing in the 5D is the second, but it doesn't end there. So many people would call me enlightened, sahaja samadhi, walking around in a constant state of non-dualism, but the 5D high state, it needs purpose. It needs somewhere for it to go. There needs to be a reason for all that energy. Otherwise, if you're just constantly in a state of samadhi, which is the non-dual state, which is where you're just experiencing the present moment and that's it, in a very, very high state of awareness, like an infant, like a baby, with no thought of the past and no projections into the future and no even concept of self at all, no ego, then there would be no need for the body. And so the being inside the body would leave, which I was knocking on the door of just a couple months ago. I was knocking on the door of my own ascension out of body, very, very high state. And I knew that at any moment, if I wanted to, I could shut my eyes down for about 20 minutes and leave. If I so wanted to, I could separate the consciousness from the body, not like astral travel, literally just leaving and never coming back. But I decided to stay and learn and unpack myself more in this avatar, because I believe that this avatar has more to unpack. So if you find yourself here, thank you for coming along. And I have no idea why you're here. Only you know. But I can only imagine that you want to discover the present moment. And that's what I would like to talk to you about for a few moments of my time, which seems and feels endless, and a few moments of yours. So welcome. My name is Marissa, and I go by the handle Awake. I go by that handle because my partner actually chose that handle and that name as kind of a stage name, I suppose we could call it, because this really is all just a big act. This really is all just illusion. I'm just a hologram that you projected onto the screen in order for you to have your own awareness and experience, which is what awakening truly is. It's the understanding that you are, in fact, the creator of the reality in every given moment. Now, if you're someone who's oscillating between 3D and 4D consciousness, and sometimes you're wanting to step into the 5D space and you're knocking on the door of present awareness, like I was for many, many, many years, we're talking decades, up until last year, then you probably already understand that this is a hologram reality, the matrix, so to speak. But something just isn't quite clicking. And you're probably even having hallucinations of mind, like visions and dreams and all of these things that you think is spirituality knocking on your door, but it's still an illusion. So what's real? At risk of sounding like Morpheus from the Matrix, the Wachowski sisters, brothers, whatever you want to call them, are enlightened, by the way, or at least heavily awakened 5D consciousness beings. Love you, Wachowskis. What is real? Reality is the present moment. And if you're struggling to get into the present moment, the news flash is that there's nothing to get into. The news flash is that it's always been here. It's never gone anywhere. There's a way, though, a very simple way that you can be. And you don't need to continue your suffering, though I'm sure if you're here like me, you have suffered. We don't get onto the path of spirituality without deep suffering. And you don't need to go to more spiritual meetings and or events or communities or involve yourself with more people. That's also a trap, another illusion. And you don't need to be in some weird sex cult or some weird tantra yantram balabi namadabi. You don't need to go to the ashram. You don't need to run away to Tibet. You don't need to go and visit the sacred sites. You can awaken right now. You can literally have your own samadhi experience right now. If you just do this one thing. Stubbornly look at everything in the reality in your room right now as if you've never seen it before. As if you have no idea what it is and you've never seen it before. There was a moment in your life when you were an infant where this was your regular state of consciousness all day, every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for the first few months of your life, where you had no judgment, no ideas, no past, no future, just the present moment. And this is what 5D consciousness is. It is the quantum consciousness. It is the present field. the Christ consciousness. This is what New Age spirituality, all things, religion, Advaita Vedanta, yoga, everything is pointing to this one thing. Be like a child, less than a child, an infant. Totally nullify your brain. My mentor uses that beautiful expression, and I found her after samadhi. Samadhi is simply the Sanskrit word that explains the unexplainable, the inexplicable, which is the present moment, where the nothingness is and where there's literally just presence and consciousness itself. There's no you, there's no ego, there's no sense of self, there's no spiritual identity, there's no person that suffered, there's no person that feels joy, pain. The only thing that exists there is this pure state of bliss. And many spiritual people in their satsangs and enlightened people will say it's just love, it's unconditional love, it's unconditional love, it's love, it's heart. It is, but not what you think it is. It's the state of I am, which is bliss and unconditional love. But unconditional love isn't some spiritual ego mask. People ask me why I shaved my hair. They said it's because I'm more spiritual now or something. No, I shaved my head because I'm hot in the summer in Queensland, Australia. It's hot and I travel around a lot. After enlightenment, I didn't care what anyone thought of me shaving my head, and it turns out I just really like how it feels. In fact, even looking at myself in the reflection, I can't even see self. I'm like a talking head with a body and a mind, apparently. If you want to experience the state of enlightenment or even to have an awakening experience of your own, you don't need drugs, you don't need ayahuasca, you don't need mushrooms, you don't need a shaman, you don't need another sound healing, you don't need another experience. The experience is here and now in the moment that is right now. Present. We never need to drop into the present moment. We simply are presence itself. All of these things will be tools on your way. I'm not saying that they're not helpful. They are. On top of that, the body and the psyche need to be ready for such an experience. Otherwise, you won't be able to hold it. And you may experience it for just a few moments. But if your psyche is in any way judgment of what you experience, you will lose it immediately, which is probably what you've gone through over and over again. And also the body needs to be able to hold such high vibrational states of being, especially if you want to stay here, you're going to have to go high, high, high and come down a couple notches like I had to, because there's no way you can stay in your body, especially if you're still eating, sleeping, and drinking, and you're not autonomous. I'm not going to talk about that much yet, but I will talk about it at some point. Autonomy is a whole other topic in itself, but it is where this is all going. At least it is for me. Because it's the only logical way to stabilize the state. But if you want to experience that initial awakening moment, presence is your doorway to everything. In fact, presence isn't even the doorway. It's not even the destination. It simply is there. It's in your background right now, and all of the thoughts about the past and the future are in your foreground. But if you actually bring the present into the foreground, the past and the future can get smaller and smaller and smaller. And if you have a full samadhi moment, they will not exist, which means there's no more you, because all you are is an idea based on your past experiences, your memory data bank that you think is the you, that makes up you, the ego, the idea of you. And then you project that idea into the future, and it's doing all of these different things, and all of these different scenarios and outcomes are happening, but that's all a hallucination and not real. It's all a hallucination. A fun hallucination, of course, especially when emotions are involved. And this is why I'm telling you, you must stabilize the psyche and the body. It's not enough to just sit and meditate on your mat for the next 25 years. You're going to get nowhere. Maybe you will. Maybe I'm wrong. I've been wrong many, 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 many times before. In fact, before Samadhi, I realized I knew nothing about anything. And now after Samadhi, I realize I know nothing about anything. All I know, if I know anything, is that there is a present moment and I'm in it right now. And I think that that's enough for satsang number one. I've got some very three-dimensional things I need to get ready for. And as a 5D consciousness being who operates in the 3D world, because I believe that this is the pathway forward for the modern consciousness. Running away from society is not our path, though there were moments where I thought it might be the better choice for me to leave my current settings and go somewhere else, even if it was just to be on my own and live in a tent, which you can do after enlightenment or awakening, because you no longer have any sense of emotion. You just are. What I realized was that here in the 3D reality that is my settings, my house, my business, my partners, my business partners, I should say, but my actual partner, my romantic partner, my life partner, my family, my mother-in-law and her beautiful little dog. Here in these settings is the tests. And those tests, they're like exams. They create expansion. And when we expand, we reach a new level of consciousness, and a new level of consciousness. We unpack ourselves. I'm still unpacking myself. You're unpacking yourself through me right now. I'm unpacking myself as I transmit pure consciousness to you, but there will always be unpacking through an ego. The idea is that the ego comes into the background while the pure consciousness comes forward through the avatar. And as the pure consciousness comes forward through the avatar will express pure consciousness as God itself in whatever way it's supposed to, with purpose, with plan of its own design, because I am that I am. And the I am will express itself in whatever beautiful way it wants. It won't necessarily be some shaved head chick sitting in the mountains fading away who's Asian, or some guru who's Indian sitting in the mountains on a rock. It will be in a businessman or a businesswoman or someone in your workplace, or it's you. You see what I'm saying? You don't need to run away and become a monk. Life is your monastery. Life is your practice. Current 3D life, the social games you're in. I'm not saying you can't change your settings if you don't want to go for your life, but you will know what settings are there for your growth and what settings are there for your gentle release. I can hear chaos in the background and commotion, which will be fun to involve myself in now. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you for being here, and I'm sure I'll make more of these.